Jody Mango, yeah!
About the Exodus from Egypt. What is an Exodus? Basically, an Exodus, as per Google, is mass departure of people, especially emigrants. What you see here is an example of an Exodus. The people, along with their possessions, move from one land to another. Now, as mentioned in the title, we will be talking about some points in the Exodus of the Israelites from the country of Egypt. In line with this, let us read from the book of Exodus chapter 14 verses 10 to 14. It goes, When Pharaoh drew near, the people of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them. And they feared greatly, and the people of Israel cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, Is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us in bringing us out of Egypt? Is not this what we said to you in Egypt? Leave us alone that we may serve the Egyptians, for it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. And Moses said to the people, Fear not, stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again, and the Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent. So in these verses, the Israelites were already permitted by the Pharaoh to leave the land of Egypt. This is after the multiple plagues made by God through Moses, basically the plague of the locust, plague of the Red Sea, the blood in the sea. So all of this proved one thing, that God is a great God. In the previous chapters, in Exodus 12, God declared that He will free the Israelites that day from the hands of the Egyptians. He also gave instructions on what to do. It is as this in Exodus 12:28. Then all the people of Israel went and did so as the Lord has commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. In all of this, the Israelites did all of that as stated in this verse, and as such they were freed from the land of Egypt. This should have proved the Israelites that, once again, that God is a great, and not only great, but a great and promise-keeping God. In all of the plagues, the Israelites were safe from. When they have followed God, they were freed from the Egyptians. As such, who would have believed that the people was truly free and had faith on God. But in the start of the main verse, we learn one thing, that the Pharaoh was fickle-minded. As stated in this verse, Exodus 14:10, when Pharaoh drew near, the people of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they feared greatly, and the people of Israel cried out to the Lord. The Pharaoh and his men followed the Israelites moving out of Egypt. He did not want the Israelites to leave and remember the value of them as slaves. He did not really want to free the slaves in the succeeding verse. Not only the Pharaoh was fickle-minded, so was the Israelites. As seen here in verse 12, they said, Is not this what we said to you in Egypt? Leave us alone that we may have served the Egyptians, for it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. They were saying these things when in fact God had already freed them from the Egyptians, holding them as slaves. They are already saying that, What have you done? We're better in Egypt, but you put us at a worse state. That's what they are seeing. They have also not known that God had moved them to a better route. It is said here in Exodus 13:17, verses previous that. So when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. So God had the people of Israel in mind and had not wanted for them to go through a more perilous path wherein they will have to go through the Philistines on one side, fight, while the Egyptians on the other, because the Egyptians will also attack them in the back. Basically, they would have been in a pincer attack. They had known that God was a great and promise-keeping God from the previous verses, but they have not known themselves, and that is that they left the comfort zone. In Egypt, they might have been slaves, but in there they were sure of food, shelter, and all of the necessary the items. It's the same with us. There are times when we want to go back to our Egypt. God has already freed us, but we want to go back to our comfort zone. For the Israelites, they want to go back to being slaves to the land of Egypt. Because of this comfort, they had known how to be free. But faced with problems, they already backed out and just wanted to go back. For us, the land of Egypt, that land of slavery, is the life of sin. There are times that people will tell you, those basically that they know that you were a sinner before, they would tell you, it's easier here. Live the life of sin. Is it not much easier to just do bribes than do the right thing? To cheat than to follow the rules? We are like the Israelites at times, wanting to go back to the easy, comfortable life. But what would happen if you go back? It says here that you will have wrath and captivity. We may have comfort, but we will be slaves once again, and wrath will surely befall us. But the amazing thing is, in all of this, God still believes in us. He still wants to save us if you continue. So, in the verses after that, Moses said that to the people, fear not, stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians, whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent. So Moses told the people, fear not, stand firm, for God will save them. He will fight for you, and you only need to be silent. What you will need to do is follow him. You need not do anything, you just need to follow God. So what happened afterwards? You can see here in this verse that thus the Lord saved Israel that day from the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Israel saw the great power that the Lord used against the Egyptians, and so the people feared the Lord, and they believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses. So they were all saved by God. And due to this, they remembered once again that God is a great and promise-keeping God. Let us always remember that God is a great God. He will always save us. Not only that, He will always follow through with His promise. Even if at times we are fickle-minded, people that changes our mind with the works of the world. Let's always pray and seek God in our life so that we will not be like the Israelites in this text, that marveled at the greatness of God, but return back in their ways and wanted to be slaves again. Let's always be free from being a slave of our past sins, and let us always remember that God is a great and promise-keeping God, as we have also wondered in our Exodus. Well, that's our Exodus of life. Well, that's it. God bless us all. Hope we learned something from the Exodus from Egypt.
Joe, 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 Jody Mango, yeah!